manage these big but expected expenses in our budgets. Maybe it's something like a trip that you've had planned for several months. Or maybe last month you changed the tires on your car that you've known about for a year now. These are really good examples of ways that we can use sinking funds to not blow up our monthly budget whenever these expenses come in. And so with that, let's dive into the magic of sinking funds. Probably one of the best ways to explain a sinking fund is just to go through an example. And so for my wife and I, we live in a neighborhood that has an HOA. And so every single quarter, we have to pay $900 to the HOA. And so this is a really good example. This is something that we pay every 3 months, and it's something that we want to include in our monthly budget, but it only comes out of our bank account every 3 months or every quarter. And so the way that we handle this is through a sinking fund. And so we personally use SoFi. I believe that this is one of the best features of any of the banks that I use. And what it allows us to do is, you can see we have various vaults. This is our HOA payment vault, which allows us to say, okay, this is the fund or the bucket that we've set up so that we can pay our HOA payment every single month. And then we set up this autopilot automatic transfer from our checking into this saving account every single month. And so on the 14th, you can see that we move $300 every single month into this account. And so we paid out, it looks like $900 in the beginning of October. And every single month, we have both added $300, but we've earned interest. The magic thing about this is it's earning 4% on every single dollar that I add into this account, rather than sitting and checking and earning virtually nothing. SoFi, in my opinion, has one of the best interest rates out of any banks that I have found, especially for their savings account. So here are the sinking funds that my family and I use on a monthly basis. You can use these as inspirations for maybe different ways that you can set up sinking funds for your personal or family budget. And so for us, the first one is personal buckets. My wife and I, we have combined all of our finances into a single bank account. Everything is coming out of one place, but we still like to have a place to have our own personal spending. And so we put just $200 a month into our own little personal buckets, and any expense that is over $100 comes out of this bucket. And so this is a way that she can go shopping, I can go golfing or whatnot, and it really doesn't cause any fights or anything, because that's my bucket. I can do whatever I want to. Everything else is shared. The next is emergency funds. Most financial advisors would advise that you need to have between 3 and 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund. And so we have that, but we still put away a little bit each month so that we have our emergency fund set up. Next is a furniture bucket. We recently moved into a new house, and we have a lot of new furniture that we're trying to buy. Instead of us just getting hit with those expenses whenever we purchase new furniture, what we've done is just put away every single month into a furniture bucket. And whenever that bucket gets large enough for us to buy a couch or whatever my wife wants to buy, we just look at the bucket, and however much is in that bucket is how much our budget is to buy new furniture. Next is giving. And so outside of tithing and giving to other organizations, we constantly are asked for various ways to give. And we don't want that to come out of our monthly budget. We just want a bucket already set aside that as long as there's money in that bucket, we're going to give it all away. And so every single month we put aside money into another giving bucket. And whenever someone asks for a GoFundMe or any type of need that comes across our plates, we can just freely give without even having to think about it, and knowing that it's not going to affect the monthly budget. Next is our house and car repairs. You can either combine these like we have, or you can split them up. For us, we've combined them. And so any repairs that go towards the house, anything that goes to our car, tire changes, etc., it comes out of this bucket, and we have expenses saved ready for any type of emergency. Next is travel. We probably travel and take a large trip maybe once a year. And so instead of all of this hitting whenever that trip occurs, we save for it every single month throughout the year. And then when that big trip comes, we've already paid for it, and we've paid for it throughout the entire year. And then last but not least is house projects. And so again, we've moved into a new house. There's a million things that we need to budget for and build for. And so what we've done is we have a small house projects. And so this is anything under $1,000. These are things that we want to quickly fix up, etc. And then we have large house projects. And so these are things over $1,000 that are much larger. And it's for us, it was important to split those out because I myself would just spin this bucket, the smaller bucket, and then that wouldn't leave any room for these much larger house projects that we need to be saving for over 1 to 2 years. And so this is how our family has set up our sinking funds or our personal our buckets. Feel free to use this as inspiration and set it up in any way that works for you. And so that's how we use sinking funds. For me, it makes managing our monthly expenses way easier than without using sinking funds. In addition, I'll leave a link to SoFi in the description if you're looking for a bank that will help you set up buckets or sinking funds similar to what I've just showed you. So the downside to using sinking funds is it actually creates one additional step in how you manage your monthly budget. So using the HOA example, when that comes out of our bank account this month or next month, I'm going to need to go into my expense tracking and exclude that from our monthly budget so that it's not counted twice. To me, this is not that much of a burden, but to some, it may add extra work or extra burden to you. I will record another video on how I use Monarch Money and link it here and go deep into how I set up my expense categories, how I track expenses on a monthly basis, and how I make sure that I keep all the buckets organized and accrued for in the right way. Hope to see you on the next video.